What's up, everybody? You guys know who it is. We've been pushing really hard on this coupe, and it's been a few days since I've done any videos or filming because I've either been working or working on the car, and I haven't really filmed a whole lot because I'm working on the car from the minute I get home till the minute I walk in the door before I take a shower and go to bed. So I haven't given myself any time to not only film but do any editing. So I got the evacuator fan going in my little spray booth. I got the motor right here. Just a little update. No real video today. I'm just gonna throw in a couple of clips of everything that I've been doing, but I haven't really been doing like full videos. I've just been picking away. I've been working on the pedals, had some issues with the pedals, so I didn't get the pedals straightened out yet, but I'm working on that. I got the motor put together and painted. Kind of just sitting there. That's the color. Surprise, surprise. It's not red or gold. Got all my paint stuff over there. I got a bunch of paint stuff over there. I'll take you guys into the spray booth and show you guys what's in here. Woo, stinky. Front fenders. Got the rear drums, the wheel cylinders. Ladder bars, the rear axle obviously, the panhard bar, master cylinder, some brake parts, the steering wheel. That's just some of the stuff. What I'm working on right now is I already did the driver's side, so I'll show you. This is where the gasket lays on the intake deck on the heads. So in order to paint these areas here, the negative, I taped off the deck, set the gasket on like this. I get my locating holes at the water crossover ports. And then I put a bolt in, set my gasket, and then I trace the gasket out, and then I cut it out with a razor blade. And now what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to paint with a brush real carefully all around where the gasket surface goes. So I won't risk the gasket not sealing. So I'm just slowly putting things together. Everything's getting painted, like my distributor hold down and a water pump. I ended up making this little tube there for the breather and the oil fill. I got my old chrome Hurst mounts on. I made a block off plate for the fuel pump, so I won't be running that. I'll be running an electric fuel pump. I got my spark plugs in today. I modified the downdraft tube or the road tube with a crankcase vent and put a PCV valve in this plate there. So that's all done. So we're getting there. My spark plugs, like I said, those came in, so I'll pop those in a little bit. And just getting things ready so I can get this motor and transmission mated together and get things put in the car. Oh, I had an old chrome flathead dipstick. So what I did was I ended up cutting the factory dipstick here, and then I cut the chrome end, and I just welded them together real quick. Nothing fancy, but they don't make a chrome dipstick tube for the Oldsmobiles. But now I got one. So I just slowly, like I said, just piecing things together at this point. So I'm gonna get to work. I'll set up the camera and get to work on cutting that one out. Show you guys how I do it. Now, if I was smart, I would have done this before the paint process, but I didn't. But I think moving forwards, if I were to build another motor, I would do this exact same process, but do it earlier. And then I'm not worrying about brush painting things, I'm just painting it all at the same time. The plan is to get, like I said, the motor and transmission mated together this weekend and start putting things together on the car. And actually start consolidating parts. Now I don't really need to cut this bottom portion because basically the gasket covers the entire bottom of the head. I'm doing this obviously to make it look nice, but I don't want it to rust, so. Actually, I gotta remove that portion. So now at that point, this thing's ready to touch up with the brush. I'm not gonna do it quite yet because I have a couple other things that I'm gonna be painting in the rose or the purple color. So I'm gonna wait till I'm painting those, and I'll just take a little bit of paint with a brush and I'll touch this up first, and then let that dry, and then I'll be able to get the intake bolted on. I ended up ordering some fuel safe rubber hose. It's essentially like a gas vent hose for a gas tank that will attach the two crossovers. So I'm waiting for that to come in. That's on order. That should be hopefully in pretty soon or someday this week. So once that gets here, I'll be able to bolt the intake on. Yeah, just keep moving forward. So far, so good. Got some Never Dull here. I've been trying to clean things up as I go. Never Dull is good stuff. So all the parts on the motor are old. Everything's all this old chrome. Just trying to bring it back. Giving a new lease on life, you know. These came from a guy named Dan out in Colorado, the Oldsmobile guy. He definitely treated me right on these. I was pretty excited to have them. Grab a rag. Ooh, shiny, shiny. So I think, as you guys know at this point, I'm trying to get this car somewhat put together and mocked up and rolling for the Northeast Auto Expo, which is being held in Augusta, Maine. And it is being held at the Augusta Convention Center, I believe, or Civic Center or something like that. That is January 12th through the 14th. And we will be there promoting our drag racing event, which we host in Maine on Memorial Day weekend. It is called Northeast Vintage Drags. It was a huge event last year. We had an incredible turnout. We're already getting car submissions. We haven't opened submissions yet, but people have just been sending in their cars because they're excited about the event and just kind of can't wait to get a spot for the race. So we're going to be up at Augusta at the expo, just promoting the event. We'll have flyers, we'll have some brochures, we'll have stickers, we'll have t-shirts for sale from last year's event. So if you guys are local to Maine or you got nothing going on, second weekend of January, the 12th through the 14th, just come on up, come and say hello. I will have the 34 Coupe there. It won't be done by any means, but it's going to be put together enough that you guys will be able to see it in person and, you know, just kind of see the work that's been done on it and where it's at this point. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited just to get the car out of the garage, just rolling, you know, at this point, knowing that some of the stuff won't have to come back together, fingers crossed. But I'm just really excited. So that's why I'm working so hard right now to get these little things done, all the details done, so I can get the motor and transmission put together and get it in the car. And then hopefully at that point, you know, it won't have to come back out unless we have some issues or I have any issues with it. So fingers crossed. So that's it. Just get these polished up real quick. They look good. Get you guys on the tripod and we'll kind of fill you guys in and let you know where I'm at. The car is sitting on the ground right now. Grab a stool. Oh, we're a little high. Let me see here. All right. So everyone loves the 34 Coupe. You guys see it, it's behind me. It is sitting on the ground. Motor and transmission are in. Again, I didn't do a lot of filming of the process of putting things together because I've given myself a deadline. And my deadline, not to finish the car, but get the car to a point where it rolls, it steers, and it kind of looks like a car. My deadline is Wednesday, January 10th. And the reason for that is Thursday, January 11th, we are leaving to head up to Augusta, Maine for the Northeast Auto Expo. And what that event is for me is we are promoting Northeast Vintage Drags. You guys know about the race. You heard me talk about it. If you don't know about the race or you haven't seen any videos, go back into my video feed and just do a search for Northeast Vintage Drags. It should pop up. It's about an hour-long video. I think it was a pretty good video. I'm one of the promoters of the race. Primarily, it's myself and Pete Flavin, one of my best friends, and we do a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So, anyways, get back to what I'm doing is we're going to the Northeast Auto Expo to promote Northeast Vintage Drags. Northeast Vintage Drags is a vintage drag race in Oxford, Maine at the new Oxford Dragway. So if you're familiar with Oxford, you probably know the Dragway because it's right behind the Speedway. The Oxford Speedway has been around since the 50s. The Dragway has been around since the 60s. About the same time this car was built originally. Well, that's as far as the history that I have for this car is to the early 60s. It was hot rodded, I think, before that, to be honest, because there's some older work that's underneath all the turquoise paint and whatnot. So what I've been up to, again, working long days, working long nights on the car, and it's shiny now. You guys can see some reflection of the lights. My buddy Joe was here, we were working on the motor, and one day we stopped and took a lunch break, and he said, have you ever thought about wet sanding and buffing the car? And I said, never really thought about it. Let's try it. Because honestly, you can see the top half, like around the back window, it's still a little dingy. It's like dust and dirt and stuff, but if you guys know, you remember the car, where it started to where I ended off. I had painted it and kind of made it look old. And I started to not love it, which may surprise some people, but I started to not love it. But I didn't know what to do because I don't want to paint the car. I love the patina, but I was starting to not love the wet sanded flat look. And I didn't even mention anything to Joe. He just happened to mention, have you ever thought about wet sanding and buffing it and what the paint might look like afterwards? Pudding Fab Shop did his shop truck recently, that C10, and the truck looks amazing. This is old lacquer. You can see the deck lid's a little bit off. That's a newer paint. That's acrylic enamel, as is from the belt line up. So the roof, the entire roof and the deck lid is new, and the rest of the car is old. So I decided to wet sand and buff it. So we've been kind of picking away at that a little bit here and there. But the main thing right now is all the suspension's in the car. The car is on four wheels. It's on its wheels and tires. The motor and transmission are in. And it has been a struggle. You know, when you start dealing with these older motors, I can't just go to AutoZone and buy parts for a 57 Oldsmobile, or you can't just go online and order an adapter or, you know, different things to mount this Oldsmobile engine to the transmission that I have. And you have to have all these old parts, and if you don't have them, you have to make them. And we found ourselves fabricating a lot of stuff to make everything work. And it's just been a struggle. So we finally got it to a point where we attached the motor and transmission, and we got the motor and transmission put in the car yesterday. So I'm gonna take a quick walk around and show you guys where the car's at. If I look tired, if I sound tired, I am. I'm exhausted. When I tell you I'm working long days, I'm working, one night it might be till 11, the next night it might be till 12:30 in the morning, the next night, I've had nights where I've gotten in, it's been after 2 a.m. and I gotta get up in the morning and go to work too. So. But again, I give myself this deadline. I do this to myself all the time. But I'm not complaining. So let's go check it out and show you guys where we're at. All right, so the car is a 34 Ford, 5-window coupe. George Ryan, from what I know, the history of the car, I don't know the history prior to George. George Ryan put this car together with a 389 Pontiac and a 4-speed automatic transmission. The rear axle is so I found out some more details. The rear axle is a 55 to 57 housing with the brake assemblies. The center chuck is a 62, I believe, I think. Anyways, so it's a 62 rear, it's a Tri-5 Chevy rear axle, essentially, posi with 336s, unless the gears have changed. That's the cast number, the casting or stamping. That's the stamping for the gear ratio on the housing is the 336. So the car was originally built with a 389 Tri-Power Pontiac with a 4-speed automatic and the Chevrolet Tri-5 Chevy rear axle. It now has a 371 Oldsmobile with a 64 Ford Fairlane 390 4-speed top loader. So the motor is 40 over. It's got a big regrind cam in it. I'm not sure of the company of the regrind, the person who ground it. I don't know. It is a 535, 534 lift, I believe is what it is. Forget what the duration is, but it's a pretty long duration cam. Adjustable McGurk rocker assembly, solid lifters, flat top pistons, 10-to-1 compression. It's been balanced. It has a Offenhauser 6.2 log intake. It will have 6 97s on it. I haven't had time to go through those yet, but the motor is completely rebuilt, all redone, all freshened up, ready to go. The frame is a 33-34 Ford frame. The body is channeled 6 inches over the frame, and it is welded right to the frame. So the body and the chassis are one piece. They're not coming apart. I didn't ever attempt to take them apart. People told me I should on YouTube. They will never be separated as long as I own the car. I have Noxus Customs center dump, 2.5 inch headers. Got brand new NOS Champion J12 plugs. I'll have a Mallory dual point distributor that's actually been converted to Petronics, so that's brand new, ready to go, ready to be set into the car, to the motor. I've got old Columbus shocks on all 4 corners, the same color as the motor. That was the inspiration for the color of the motor and transmission, was the front shocks. So it's got those. It has 16 by 550 front. Well, the front wheels are early Ford, 16 by 4s, which is a 40 Ford front wheel. Or 40 Ford wheel. The rears are 46 to 48. They're 4.5 inches wide, 16 inch. The front tires are 550 16s, and the rears are 750 16s. White walls. The center caps, so the hub caps are full caps. I don't exactly know where they're from. They're an accessory cap, probably like a J.C. Whitney type of deal. They almost have a Lincoln style logo in the center of them, but I don't believe they're a Lincoln. I think it may be like a dealer like an accessory type of deal. So I found them on eBay. They were mislabeled. They were misposted. They were posted as 15 inch. And when I bought them expecting them to be 15 inch. It wouldn't fit on a 15 inch wheel. So I snapped them onto an early Ford wheel, and I couldn't believe they were 16 inch caps. The person must have never measured them. And I got them for an absolute song. So Dietz headlights, 7 inch old chrome headlights, or early Offenhauser headlight stands. It has an original 32 big beam that's been dropped. So it's got a dropped 32 big beam, split Model A front wishbones. The brand, RJ Speed Shop, rear suspension setup. That's from Corey Pugh. If you've never gone on his website, check him out, RJ Speed Shop. He's got some amazing stuff. Builds everything in-house, USA made. Great company, seems like a great guy. It's early Ford style motor mount. I got old chrome Hurst motor mounts, old chrome NASCAR valve covers, old chrome Valley pan. A lot of old chrome on the car itself. I have a Hurst 4-speed shifter that I'm going to be doing some modifications to put like a Model 8 old chrome swan neck handle on. I got that right here. So this is a shifter that I mocked the car up with right here. It's just a Hurst shifter, like a 60s, 70s style shifter. I am going to be modifying this shifter to accept this. So it's going to have a nice tall shifter arm, shifter handle on it pretty soon. Probably going to be doing that within the next couple of days. I'd like to have that done before the show. Last night I'm going through my fancy bits cabinet, and I pulled out what I thought was a set of flathead Ford wire looms. So I need to start building my wires and getting the distributor in and whatnot. So I said, hey, I wonder if these would fit. They fit on a flathead Ford, and I brought them over. And they fit like they were made for an Oldsmobile engine. And I reached out to my buddy Pete and I said, yeah, you're gonna believe this. These flathead Ford wire looms fit perfectly on my Oldsmobile. He said, no, they used to make them for Oldsmobiles too. He said, those things are very rare. You could probably sell those for a lot of money. Why would I sell them I have an Oldsmobile? So these wire looms are gonna end up going on that motor. I just gotta clean them up, and I'm just gonna bend the tabs on them to get them to fit on the center mount valve covers, center bolt valve covers. So those are gonna get cleaned up pretty soon, probably today. That too. I have not put the grill assembly on yet. I still need to do the pulley, the water pump pulley, the fan assembly. I need to get the radiator mounted to the grill shell or vice versa. They go on the car as one unit, and then I'll get those bolted onto the car, get my radiator stay rods. I got to figure out the placement of those. Originally I was going to run a 4.2 setup on the car, but now I have a 6.2 setup just because of the displacement. The 4.2 just wasn't going to be enough CFM. I roughly need somewhere in the 725 CFM for this car to breathe the way it needs to breathe. So you can see it's these. I don't know if I'm going to use these particular carbs. I just had these. I wanted to sit them on the car to see where the scoops were going to fall, if they were going to come through the hood. If I ever do decide to run a hood, I will end up having to cut the top off, cut the holes out for the scoops, but that's fine. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I modified the downdraft road draft tube and put in a PCV valve. Probably see that down there. See that right there. So I put a modern style PCV valve in there. Very, very simple to do. There's a little snout that comes off the back of that. You literally just cut the snout off, pound it flat, and then just clean it up and make it a little closer of a circles. When you cut that snout out, it's kind of like an oval. You gotta kind of just modify it just a little bit and then pop that grommet right in there and it's perfect. Made my own oil filled neck. You can see it. It's this ribbed aluminum neck. That's kind of cool. Just add to the look of the motor. Hopefully you still give it that vintage style, you know. Got some pinstriping on the car from my friend Brian, who's unfortunately since passed. Very fortunate to have that on the car. You can see his name right there under the center of that. And this, again, this color was inspired by the shocks. And it's a Columbus velvet ride shock. So I have those on all four corners of the car. So I thought it would be just a nice color to offset the turquoise. Oh, and speaking of which, so all these years I've been telling people who have asked, what's that color? And I would tell them it's 1958 tropical turquoise. That's the color that George told me he painted the car. Well, during the process of wet sanding the car, I'll show you guys something. We discovered, you can kind of see it. See that right there? See how it's lighter? That's 1958 tropic turquoise. The color that's on top of it, which the color of the car is not. And when I painted the deck lid and the roof, I matched tropic turquoise because that's what I was told the car was. Well, between the time that George sold it to Walter Ash, then Walter Ash sold the car to David Shannon from Watertown, David Shannon must have had the car painted. And then Brad chopped it and then painted the whole thing flat black. So at some point, I guess in the late 60s to mid 70s or late 70s, the car was painted again. And I never knew it. So that's why the deck lid and the roof don't match the color of the car. They match underneath. So that was a surprise. So we figured that out. And there's some other spots on the car where it's coming through. You see little bits here and there. The car was brush painted at one point in time too, which is kind of neat. It gives it that old look, you know. But I still need to finish wet sanding the car, so I'm going to take you guys along for that ride as well. So, and then we'll wet sand. And I still got to cut and buff it. So like I said, it's got the Offenhauser headlight stands, a 7-inch. No, it's got a 6-inch old chrome Dietz headlight. Those came from a person on Instagram, California. Got the old chrome Hurst mounts. Got the Stellings breathers, the old NASCAR valve covers. F100 steering column. I added this little mirror. So that's the steering wheel. Is this a 55 Mercury steering wheel? Whoops. And that is an accessory trim ring, a horn ring, or it's from a Mercury Montclair maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Here's the dash. You can see there's a lot of white going on, so I want to just try to break it up a little bit. Gauges are just sitting in there. I got to pop those out. I bought this piece here, this Nerf bar here, and then I bought this here. These are old chrome. Bought these from a gentleman named Tony down on the Cape. And then I had a piece of stainless rod tubing that I bent, and I'm gonna end up polishing this. I got it bent and fit right on the car perfectly. I got the lights that came on the car mounted back onto the car. The license plate holder. The Nerf bars, you can see underneath the back of the car. You can see the shocks. Panhard bar. I'll show you the linkage system. Kind of hard to see, but you can see it there. So obviously there's been a lot of work going on into the car. So I still need to sand this, wet sand it. I wet sanded this with 1500. You can see I stopped right about there yesterday. So I still got to do this whole portion of the roof, underneath the window, the belt line. I got to finish sanding this whole entire side. Every bit of this side has to be done. So we'll do a quick comparison. So that's what it looked like before we wet sanded. And now that's what it looks like now. So I really love this look. I love the shiny paint. So that's kind of where I left off. But I love the look of the car. I just love everything about it at this point. I'm super excited. Super excited to start getting the carburetors torn down and cleaned up. This one's got a broken linkage arm, so I'm not really going to be able to use that center carburetor unless I replace the base, which I think I have a few. But I've got several of them, so it's going to be a slow process. So inside the trunk, that's an F100 gas tank. Made this mount here. I have all the hoses, I have everything. That's my battery box there. It's like I have these filler pieces here. Everything's going to be riveted in. So you have like all these panels and stuff. So they're just sitting there for now, but those are all going to get riveted in place, and it ought to be pretty nice when I'm all said and done, when it's all said and done. I need to list up the 30 Coupe for sale tonight. I will never drive that thing again.